Welcome, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I need a motion to approve the agenda for the business meeting of August 9th, 2021.
Eric and Jay.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think Duncan did.
Okay, now we have the district-wide school safety plan public hearing. Janet Massaman, business official. I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you.
So tonight is the public hearing for our district-wide school safety plan. Last meeting on June 28th, Malcolm from Needham Risk was here presenting our plan to you guys and the purpose of the plan. This plan is directly linked to the individual building level emergency response plans, which should be ready in September. That lists all the different schedules. It'll be just for the board to see. These plans are to guide the staff and the law enforcement if there are any emergency or violent incidents to our schools. So we have two things to add to our district plan on page 8 to 9. One board member would like the State Route 32 traffic included, and also the Greenville Power Supply Company to be included. Any other concerns?
Janet, I only have one, on the same page, I'm not there on my screen yet, but under your list of known hazards, or I don't remember what your title for it is, it lists Owens Corning and
Yep.
General Electric. It's not General Electric anymore, it's Sabic.
What was that?
It's Sabic. You have to look, don't ask me to spell it.
SABIC.
There you go. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, I'll make that change also.
That's, shouldn't hold up anything.
Okay?
So this is the time if anyone has any comments from the public. It's open to the public concerning the plan that we're talking about right now. The district-wide plan.
Okay.
Hearing.
All right, then I will close the hearing. Thank you. Now, 5.1, open forum. The 30-minute open forum is the time for the board sets aside to hear in-person comments from the public. Comments may also be emailed in advance of the meeting prior to 4 p.m. on the date of the meeting to Daphne Pearson, District Clerk at pearsond@greenvillecsd.org. This is an opportunity for residents to voice general concerns or compliments, especially about items on the agenda. However, this is not the time to register complaints about specific individuals or about items that should be addressed confidentially through the proper channels. I'd like to open up the floor. If you could just go over, because there's a microphone, and just let us know your name, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is Gina Scholl. I'm a parent of 2 elementary school children in the district. And what I want to address is the concerns of wearing masks all day. I'm pretty sure like this whole subject is like torn both ways. Some parents want their children to wear masks and they want to protect them because of what's going on. And other parents want to choose. They should have the right to choose. You know, you choose what foods your kids eat, you choose how they dress, and you want them, you know, either you want them to, you know, do the right thing. And I think it should be up to the parents to choose to wear the mask, you know, all day in school. I mean, the CDC keeps going back and forth. They keep saying, oh, masks are good, then masks are not good. It's like, and the benefits, I mean, what's going on with the kids, it's scary. My daughter, Star, she has speech problems. She also has learning disabilities. She has a 504 in the school. And this past year has been really rough for her because she needs socialization. And it has been very difficult for her to even like see her peers' faces, you know, for her to realize what's going on. And it's very sad for me because I love our school district. I really do. I've been living here almost 16 years, and it makes me sad to see that my daughter is having a really difficult time. And my oldest daughter, who was supposed to start high school this year, chose not to come and chose to do homeschooling through a different school online because she does not want to wear a mask, and she also has social anxieties. So I really feel like if this year, I'm really hoping that you'll leave it up to the parents and not just rely on the CDC, because the CDC has been wrong. They're not exactly right on everything, and they keep contradicting everything they're giving all of us. It's not, so I really wish that you would consider, because I know I'm not the only one in the school district. I just know a lot of people are not speaking up about this whole situation and how it's affecting their children's emotional health, their mental health, everything that's going on. So I really hope that you guys will consider, leaving it up to the parents. Let the parents make the decision that if they want their kids to come to school this year wearing the mask, fine, that's what they should be doing. If the other parents don't want to, let them be free and let them breathe. Because we don't even know what's going to happen, like, if they can't even breathe. Like, all day breathing the same carbon monoxide in your mouth, it's not good for your health. So where is the CDC on that? Where are the guidelines? These are things that we got to consider for our kids. We don't know the long-term effects, what's going to happen with them breathing in carbon monoxide. I know, like, back in the days, like, when they had, like, an event like this, they ended up getting, like, all pneumonia and all these other ailments because you're not breathing in clean air. So that's my thing. I really hope that you guys leave it to the parents. That's all I could say. I really appreciate all of you. I love our school district, and I appreciate everything that you've been doing for our children. But the mask got to go. It's more than 18 months, and mental health is a huge thing also. It's how it affects all of our kids. My oldest daughter was so depressed. She's like, I don't know what to do. And I know my daughter wasn't the only one in our school district. So I really hope that you guys consider giving the parents the choice, and the parents that are scared to send their kids to school, let them wear the masks then if that's the way the parents feel and they want their children to be protected. But everybody shouldn't be forced to wear this mask. I really feel like it just takes away social aspects, especially for my daughter Star. She needs to see your face. She needs to, she has issues, and it has been really difficult to watch my daughter Star, like, just, why, Mommy, I can't see through the mask. I'm like, I'm sorry, honey, we're doing the best we can, we're all in this, like, we all in this together, but we shouldn't be all forced to be subject to this mask. I want my kids to breathe, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the school district also want this, and thank you. I appreciate everything you guys have been doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Yeah, I agree with you as well. Statistically, if you look at both Albany and Greene County, where we are, there's been 0 deaths of anyone under the age of 25. And there's been roughly 11 hospitalizations due to COVID of under 25 years of age. We're a tight-knit community. If there was instances or tragedies, we come together. There has not been one instance of COVID that has brought the community together to do a GoFundMe, to do a fundraiser. Nothing related to children and COVID. I agree, the masks are detrimental to the education. The cohorts gotta go. That's not how kids learn. That's not how they learn. We all know that. I just pray that we all can come together as a community and allow us, as parents, to make the decision for the kids. Thank you.
Could you identify yourself, sir?
What's that?
Could you identify yourself?
Yes, Brad Winnie.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have received 7 emails today, which I forwarded to everybody. Did everybody get those emails?
Yes.
Okay. There was one video too, which I can't print that out and read it. A couple of people wanted to be anonymous. I can either read these letters, or if you've all seen them, that's up to the board if you want me to read them. Yes, Duncan?
At least one asked that it be read here in open forum, so I think that ought to be read.
Technically, let me just look at these. They didn't really ask that they be read in open forum, but let me just look at them really quick.
I thought.
A couple of them did.
Oh, okay.
What was that, Eric? I'm
I
sorry.
thought that person rescinded their first.
The first one did, yeah. What's that one? I can run through quick if
Yeah.
you want me to.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's fine. This person wanted to remain anonymous. I am a mom of 4, elementary, middle, and high school. I'm emailing because I will not be able to attend tonight's meeting, but would like to express my opinion. I am hopeful school will open full-time for all students, even if a mask is required. My kids struggled so hard over the last year and a half, and they really just want to go back to some normalcy. Good luck tonight, and I will be keeping my fingers crossed for a good outcome. Brad, do you want me to read your letter?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay. We cannot afford another year of overwhelming COVID restrictions on our children, teachers, and district employees. The masks cause emotional and social problems for the children that will be irreversible if we continue down this road, not to mention how unsanitary and distracting they are. The cohorts cause extra stress and barriers for the teachers. We are asking our certified teachers to be cafeteria workers, taking lunch and breakfast orders. A classroom is for learning, not eating. Our students deserve a full-time certified teacher the entire day, not split between classrooms on either side of the hall. We need to have library, music class, gym, band, sports, cafeteria, and recess as normal. Parents need to be allowed back in the schools to see what their kids are doing. We need to have dances, plays, sports at full capacity, field trips, so on and so on. Masks should be optional for all district workers and students. Let the parents decide. Allow them to sit with their kids and discuss this matter as a family. Please send out a survey and allow the parents and taxpayers to decide how we should approach restrictions entering the 21-22 school year. Be Spartan strong and stand up for our students' rights and proper education. Brad Winnie. This is an email from Rachel Roth. Good afternoon. I would like to provide my opinion regarding return to school this fall. Our family would like masks to be optional / not required. Remote learning optional and available for student sick days. This one is from Thomas Gallagher. Please know that if the district chooses to mandate any COVID vaccine in order for my children to attend in-person learning, I will pull them from enrollment immediately and begin the homeschooling process. This is another one that would like to remain anonymous. I am reaching out in regards to the school reopening plan and what that means for my 2 elementary students as well as my child entering middle school this year. The health and safety of my little ones is the main focus and priority. It was suggested for school districts to follow local guidelines as we return to school in September. But what if local guidelines aren't enough? As of now, it is merely suggested that everyone return to mask wearing. What will happen if parents refuse to have their child wear a mask? What if parents opt not to have their 12-plus-year-old children vaccinated? Will remote learning be offered again this year as an option as COVID-19 cases locally, nationally, and globally rise yet again? What course of action is being taken to ensure a clean, healthy environment in classes as well as busing? What size classes continue to remain? Will class sizes continue to remain smaller? Will middle high school students be switching classes and using lockers? I would like my concerns addressed at the school board meeting and would like to remain anonymous. And that concludes what I have.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Now I'd like to move on to the presentation 6.1, the 2021-22 district goals, the district comprehensive instruction plan. And Tammy Sutherland and Todd Hilgendorf, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
So today is August 9th, and just to remind you of our school improvement and district goal development calendar that the district, the board approved a couple months ago. Under August 9th, this is the meeting that the district goals and the district comprehensive improvement plan are reviewed for approval by the Board of Education. So in recent years, as everyone knows, we have had three main goals, and those goals have basically remained consistent over the years, and we've had different action plans or different priorities that we had listed under them. So this year this is our second year working with the school improvement process. So we wanted to make sure our district goals and the priorities were the same. So our district goals have now become: Goal 1 is curriculum, Goal 2 is culture, and Goal 3 is community. And basically, they are the same. And then under it, we have the different strategies and the different measurement of success. So I'm going to start by reading our three main overarching goals, and then I'm going to turn it over to Todd, who's going to start talking about the different strategies. And this was through our improvement planning that we had many stakeholders a part of, and then looking at the different measurements of success to make sure that we are reaching those goals. So our first goal is curriculum, and this is all students will engage in relevant and challenging learning that will motivate them to be collaborative, creative, and inquisitive. Our second goal is culture. All students, staff, and families will be provided a welcoming, safe, secure, supportive, and engaging school environment where all students thrive. And our third goal is under community. Greenville Central School will partner with families and the larger community to improve student learning and well-being. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Todd to continue.
Thank you, Tammy. Good evening, everyone. So this is really a continuation of the presentation that we provided back at the July meeting. That meeting happened shortly after we'd had our two-day workshop that brought together about 30 of our faculty members from across the district to work on our district comprehensive improvement plan. And as Tammy mentioned, we really worked this year to make the priorities that go into our improvement plan, that is the requirement for the state, the same as the goals that we have as a district, so to try to create as much alignment and consistency in those plans that we have for the state and what we're doing here at the local level. So last month, we gave you kind of that overview with a lot of information that we had from that two-day workshop and a lot of feedback that we had from our faculty members that attended that. We have since refined and made the actual plan that was submitted to the state. So tonight, I want to go through, we're not going through the entire plan step by step. There's a lot of action steps and a lot of detail in the specific plan. My goal tonight is to go over, here is the goal/priority. Those terms are really now interchangeable in how we've structured things. The main strategies that fall under that goal, and like Tammy mentioned, then areas that we will look for as measurements of success. So again, goal number 1, the actual goal has a lot of language to it, but the easiest way to think of it is this is our curriculum goal. It's related to the work that we do around curriculum and what happens in our classrooms. So for the strategies here, we're going to continue to work on implementing and revising a rigorous K12 curriculum that is aligned vertically and horizontally. What does that mean? As students move through our school system, we want to make sure that what happens across the grade level or horizontally is consistent from classroom to classroom. And then that vertical alignment is as they move from grade level to grade level, what they're learning builds off of what they did the previous year. This is an ongoing process. We are continually reviewing our curriculum, revising that, updating it, looking at our instructional practices. So that is a single strategy that's listed there, but there's a lot that goes into that. The second one listed here is increase relevance in courses and classes K12. So this gets into the instructional side of things. I should have mentioned in all of this work, we've also tried to align what goes into our improvement plans with what we have as our district vision. So our district vision is broken into the categories of curriculum, instruction, assessment, and environment. So you'll see in here where we aligned. This piece or this strategy connects with curriculum or instruction or assessment. So that second one, the relevance piece, connects to the instructional practices that we use in our classrooms. This came from a lot of discussion over the 2 days looking at our student perception data and feedback that we've received from students. Number 3 on here is review of current assessment and grading practices. So again, aligning that to our vision document, it connects to that assessment piece. This is also a continuation of work that we started last year under the previous year's school improvement work. We started some work looking at the assessment practices that we use and trying to find a software or program that actually allows us to better create assessments that are aligned to standards, administer those assessments, and collect data on them. So it's continuing that work. And last but not least, the fourth strategy here is to continue to develop a social emotional learning scope and sequence. This one also connects back to that curriculum piece, but being very specific about social emotional learning, what happens at each grade level throughout a year to build those skills specific for students' social emotional learning. Still under goal 1, what will we look for as measurements of success? So this is where there will be certain things that we will look for throughout the year, and then benchmarks in January, and again at the end of next year. So at an upcoming board meeting, I will provide kind of a master document that will list out all of these data points that we will be looking for and how we track our progress throughout the year. And then really at the end of this coming year, so next June, looking at how did we progress in all the areas that we said that we wanted to work on. So for this first goal, again, the curriculum goal, 3 through 8 state assessment data, that absolutely has to be part of our improvement plan. The state sets very specific targets for us to reach to get to the different levels of either 2, 3, or 4. We want those upper levels. So definitely using the 3 through 8 assessment data as part of our measurement. Locally using our iReady data that we've had a lot of conversation about with the board previously, of that iReady data is local data that we collect 3 times throughout the year. So that's really great information for us locally. It ties to and connects with the 3 through 8 assessment data, but it's also our own local data that is very useful. Curriculum development and mapping data. So again, this is an area that we continually work on our curriculum maps and updating them and moving them forward. I'm excited that this is in our plan this year to actually take a measurement of how many of our maps are currently in a state of early development versus being further developed. And we set a target for ourselves of how many or what percentage of those maps we want to get to a higher level of development, which is just a good progression moving our curriculum work forward. The next one is our student perception data. So annually we do our survey each spring, winter into spring, to get feedback from faculty, staff, as well as parents and students. So this piece, we're specifically looking at the student perception data with regards to relevance. Those items that I just listed are really all quantitative measures. There's some numeric value that we can look at for all of those. In addition, we have some qualitative data, really just in the plan, there are action steps. And for each action step, some qualitative things of like, were we able to accomplish this? Did we check the box of being able to get that done, which falls more into the qualitative. I didn't list those all out here because they're in the specific plan, but for each one of these goals, there's some qualitative, just checking the box, were we able to accomplish some of those action steps? That becomes the qualitative data for that goal. So all of that is goal 1. My plan was to kind of pause after each goal. We have 3 to go through if there's any questions about goal 1 before going on to goal 2. Yes?
I have one. Would you elaborate on the curriculum development mapping, just what the current status is?
So let me grab something quick. I can. So in the district comprehensive plan that was submitted to the state, what we started last summer was looking at all of our maps and taking just a pulse. Last summer was the first time we did this of how, 1, has the map been created? Do we have a map created for that course or that grade level? So yes or no, was it started? And then 2, is it kind of just a rough outline of the year? Is it developed where there's a piece of something for each unit throughout the year, or is it well developed where it has specific content for every unit throughout the entire year? This is somewhat subjective because it's literally myself and one of the secretaries that helps me go through and look at them, just getting kind of a pulse of where we are at. But we were looking, there are a number of courses that we have yet to create a map for. So getting to a place, 1, where every course and every grade level has a map created using the templates that we've developed over the past couple of years. So that's kind of the first checkpoint. And then the other, I have to go through and find the exact number, the other is for those maps that have been previously created, getting to a certain higher level of those maps being either developed or well developed. Let's see. So the targets that we set for the elementary school, percent developed or well developed from to 70%, middle school to 50%, and high school to 50%. Again, that's based on from where we're starting to where we want to be, get to a place that more of them are further developed. Does that answer?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, okay.
I had a question. As you go through the specific measurements that we can use to assess against it, can that be compiled into one document? Because a year from now, I think it's really important to pick up one piece of paper and then say, okay, if this was our goal, then did we achieve it? You know, maybe we surpassed it. I'm an optimist. And so forth. So I think that it's really important that we compile it into one document.
Yes. So that's what I mentioned is putting it all in one place, the progress monitoring chart. It's actually in the goal development calendar of getting that together and everything in one place by October to share out
Okay.
with everybody. If the board remembers in June when we came with a lot of that end of year data and the building profiles, there was that one chart. I like color coding. That's me. Like, you know, I color coded it. Red, we didn't meet our target. Yellow, we were somewhere getting there, but not quite, and green was, we met our target. So that same idea, it's all in one place, and it's a quick visual of all these things that we listed as targets and measurements that we wanted to achieve. Visually, you can also see red, green, yellow, how many of each, where we fall.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I think that was a helpful document this past year, because it's also then all just in one place, a quick check of how we did.
Any other?
I have a question.
Yes.
Todd, to go along with Jay's question about mapping, I'm aware that the school has done mapping multiple times. Besides new hires, which I could kind of understand why they wouldn't have a map for their course, although one should have been left by the previous teacher. I'm having a hard time understanding why so many of them, our courses don't have a map, and quite frankly, why isn't our goal 100% all the way down?
For the well-developed?
Yeah,
So let me start with
at the end of the year.
Yep, let me start with the created versus not created. So curriculum mapping has had multiple versions, even in the past 10 years, certainly the past 15 years, not just Greenville, but education in general. In the past 4 years, what we've tried to do is make it more purposeful for teachers, and we stepped away from a structured platform that required a lot of specific things that didn't necessarily apply to all areas. So what we shifted to was, I think this was two years ago, pre-COVID. We think in terms of pre-COVID. So 2 to 3 years ago, we did work at each grade level, more elementary, and then at the secondary within content areas, what makes sense for a map for music? Because what makes sense for a music curriculum map is going to be different from what makes sense for a math curriculum map. So we did
Structure-wise or?
structure-wise, yes, exactly. So for very specifically, in music, there's going to be a performance aspect, right? So what does that fall under? And the structure of the standards for music is different than the structure of standards for math. So just making them a little bit more specialized. In doing that, we created these new templates. It doesn't mean that nothing exists. It doesn't mean a music teacher that doesn't have a map doesn't know what they're doing. They have plenty of their own documents, resources, things exist there following their curriculum. This is really trying to get all of that into one place in a structure that anybody, faculty-wise, could look at and have a shared resource to look at. So that was one piece of why there may have been maps created in certain areas previously, but adjusting to this newest version just creates some holes. The other piece, not yet created, I'll be honest, at the elementary school, our focus to start has been ELA and math. So we don't have maps for science and social studies. Again, doesn't mean we don't have curriculum and things aren't happening, just in this structure we don't have a map created yet. So a lot of the elementary not yet created is for science and social studies. At the secondary, a lot of the not yet created comes from teachers that teach multiple electives. So because I brag about our CETE department, I'll use them as an example. One teacher might have over a year or 2 years different electives. They might have 10, 11, 12 courses that they're responsible for mapping out. They may have started with 1 or 2 because, okay, I'm going to start with those and develop them, then move to the next. So a lot of what's not yet created at middle school, high school is just that piece.
Okay, so I get that. That's a course count. I'm glad you answered it, because that part of your plan is you want to do alignment vertically and horizontally, but if we don't have 100% mapping done, then you're not going to do the next step.
Correct.
And this is not I don't believe it's a one-year set of goals, but I understand that goals can flow from, but that makes it difficult. If we don't have a higher percentage of the ones that are at least developed,
Right.
it makes your next step more difficult.
Agreed.
Because I can hear them say, we're not there yet,
Correct.
all day long.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Do you want to move that up higher?
Move what up higher?
Your goal.
No, because I'm also trying to be a realist.
Okay.
Because this is also one of, as you can see even just in this plan, there are a lot of different pieces that we are working on simultaneously. Being realistic of, okay, I'll take a CTE teacher, and I know Linda's sitting behind me, so I'm hoping. Taking a CTE teacher that has a lot of those different maps, even if this year they get to where there's at least a map created for all of them and a general outline, I would not expect every single one of those to be to the point that they are well developed. Again, their curriculum is there and they're working, and I trust and know what's happening in their classroom is great. It's just getting it, memorialized in this process to get to those other steps. Does that answer your full question? Okay.
Yeah, I got an idea.
But go ahead.
Sorry, just fast. Just a request. We've talked a lot about curriculum maps. I've never seen one. Do you have one that you could share just so we could, I think to actually see what one looks like and read through it would help to better understand what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
My question was in kind of tying it back to whether it's the state assessments, the regions, or anything else, that when we have the maps, then is every teacher able to instruct 100% to that map, or were there areas that could not be covered? And then are we seeing a correlation then on regions or state assessments? So to me, that's kind of tying it down, but I'm sure that's later.
Yes.
Okay.
Short answer to that is yes. Some of that happens already,
Okay.
but absolutely. Those are all the pieces. When you have further developed maps, I'll use an example of state assessment data at the elementary school. So fourth grade team gets their fourth grade, we have state assessments again, get their fourth grade assessment data, or even end of year I-ready data, look at those areas of weakness, the areas that we need to work on. Okay, where does that fall on our map? Where in the year? Do we need to shift where that happens? Do we need to infuse more into that? What's actually happening for that section of our curriculum that we can work on? When you have a map to go back to, it just helps those conversations get that much more rich in discussion. So yes,
Right.
I think I'm just agreeing with you, but yes.
Yeah. Is it a matter of resources, though? I guess in the sense of time, yes, financial also. And so as we have ARP and other federal funding, then is there a way to accelerate that, to Dave's point, so that the other elements can continue?
So some of it certainly is time, right? Just time to have this happen. This actually jumps into the next part that Karen's sitting next to me for. When we talk about our reading, some of the curriculum work that has happened, that is directly connected to our TSI grant funds that allowed us to offer pay for summer curriculum work.
Okay.
So I know some of the teachers that have come in, I'm thinking of some high school teachers that came in and advanced their maps because they had a full day to come together, 2 teachers, and work 6 hours together. When does that ever happen during the school year? Not very often, right? But just 6 hours, a full day for 2 teachers to sit and work through and develop their map, I think it was creative, it's well developed, or at least it's on the way to that place because they had that time and the resource to offer that as an option.
Okay.
Goal 2. Get back to my other notes. So goal number 2, the full goal is all students, staff, and families will be provided a welcoming, safe, secure, supportive, and engaging school environment where all students thrive. Simple way of thinking about goal 2 is that culture, so that's why it says culture up on the top. Strategies under this one, these did not change, I don't think drastically from last month, but to run through them. Investigate individual learning plans. This was actually one of our groups during the 2-day workshop, had a lot of discussion around this idea of developing individual learning plans, which is really understanding every student's strength and having a specific plan for them that breaks down areas of their strength, what their interests are, their strengths, that would follow them throughout their schooling. So it also kind of then becomes like a portfolio. That is a very significant, large undertaking. So in our plans for this year, it's really to research and understand and look at samples, look at schools that do this. So it's a lot of investigating and better understanding what it could offer. Number 2 is reduce chronic absenteeism, continued area of focus from this past year. As a reminder, chronic absenteeism is defined as a student that is absent 10% or more days. So over the course of the school year, that equates to 18 days of absence or higher. Number 3, increase effective collaboration and shared decision-making. This is also a continuation from this past year. I think the work that we did in July and the group that came together was an exemplary example, that's terrible English, but a good example of collaboration and faculty from across the entire district coming together, understanding the process of school improvement, offering feedback, and working through the process together. So we hope to continue to build off of that and work on it this year. Develop social emotional learning, K12 scope and sequence. So you've already heard that in goal 1, because it really does connect to that curriculum goal of understanding the curriculum and developing that scope and sequence. In this area, that culture piece for a student to feel like they belong, as part of our mission statement says, to have those skills around social emotional learning. This is actually the teaching of that falls in this area of culture. And last but not least, align Spartan Strong activities, which connects to our character education. So this will be our 5th school year using Spartan Strong, that acronym where the letters of Strong each stand for a piece of what we want students to be doing in terms of exhibiting good character. So just looking at what do we do at each building and what happens at the middle school build off of elementary school, and then the high school build off of middle school, just aligning the different pieces that happen throughout the district. Areas of measurement for quantitative, our chronic absenteeism data is a very specific measure. This is another one that we have targets set for us by the state that we need to meet those targets for our ESSA scores. And then for perception data, again, that annual survey that we do here, looking at faculty and staff perception around shared decision-making and communication. And just like I mentioned with goal 1, there are qualitative measures within the plan, actions that if we are able to complete them, we can check that box to say they've been accomplished from a qualitative measurement standpoint. Any questions on goal 2? Last but most certainly not least, goal number 3, Greenville Central School will partner with families and the larger community to improve student learning and well-being. Quick way to think about this one is community. Our strategies: improve awareness of and access to parent resources. This was a big conversation also of a separate group when we had that 2-day workshop about what resources do we have. And some of those resources we have, but they may not be organized as well as they could be on our website. So some of it's just looking at how we have things organized and how we share that information. And then effective communication with parents and families to enhance student learning. In terms of measurements for this one, again, perception survey, but for this one, looking at the parent-family perception data. There are perception questions about how parents feel they are able to help their child at home and understand what's happening in the classroom. So some of that directly connects with how we partner with parents and families in the communication process. And again, that qualitative measure, some of the specific things are listed in the actual plan. Any questions for goal 3?
What percentage do we have of parents that are participating in the survey data? Ballpark.
That's a good question. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay.
To go back and look. It's always the highest at the elementary school, a little less at the middle school, and a little less at the high school.
Okay.
But actual percentages, I can get them.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So some of this I already touched on, but work that has been completed since the last board meeting in July. And then the next slide is going to be really the next steps, but what has been accomplished. As you can tell, our admin team took all of that information from the two-day workshop, and since our last share with you as a board, we further developed those priorities. The DSIP, Tammy and I shared that and reviewed with the GFA president, again with this idea of shared decision-making and making sure everybody is on board and understanding the process that goes into our school improvement work. So that happened in July. The DSIP the whole plan was shared with the faculty who participated in the July workshop so that they were aware of what went into that final document. On July 28th, happy to say that the DSIP was submitted to SED because this is required to be submitted to State Education Department. Just last week, August 4th, we got a memo from SED saying that our DSIP had been fully accepted, reviewed, and we met all requirements. 2 thumbs up. So that's everything under the DSIP, the district plan. The bottom section of this, school comprehensive education plans. As a reminder, those don't get submitted to the state. Those are locally developed, locally reviewed, locally adopted. The elementary and middle school have both had time in July that they continued the work from that 2-day workshop with their BLTs to work on the building-specific plans. And then next steps. Tonight, the board on the agenda is to approve the DSIP and the goals that go along with that. The BLTs, building level teams, at each level have dates set within the month of August, really in the next week or two, to continue the SEP development or the individual building plans. Those building plans will be reviewed and feedback provided by myself and Tammy for them to then complete it at the building level. We will then actually already have started some of the action steps that are listed in the DSIP. All of the plans will be shared as part of opening day in September. And then that last bullet point, what we referenced earlier, qualitative and quantitative measures from all the plans are compiled into one progress monitoring document that will be shared out. I think we have it listed at the October meeting, if not sooner. And then that just brings us back to that visual of the 3 goals. Any other questions? Yes.
So State Ed said that they received it and they gave us a thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? Does that mean that State Ed just has accepted it and that all the boxes were checked? Or does that mean that what we presented to them will be acceptable to get us off the list?
So they have a rubric that they go through. It's a checklist that they look. The planning phase of what goes into our DSIP, so like we had to explain that we had this 2-day workshop, this is what went into it, this was our data review. They have a rubric to see, did we meet all the requirements for planning? Yes, 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 yes. And then for each of the 3 goals/priorities, they look for specific criteria. We met all criteria for all 3 goals. So they do have a rubric that they go through and check to make sure we have all the required components. If we do all this, will we get off the list? That only happens, or that happens when our state assessment, in this case, our state assessment scores go up for the students that are in the identified subgroup of special ed. That, at the end of the day, we are on the list because of special ed subgroup at the middle school. A lot of good has come out of this in terms of process and work, but at the end of the day, in terms of us getting off the list and not being identified as a TSI school, it comes down to our ESSA indicators, which are connected to state assessment scores.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
At the last meeting, we had talked about being able to take the iReady data and tease out different subgroups to kind of be able to monitor and not have to wait till the end, to Eric's point, to see, yes, we got off the list, or no, we didn't. How can you give an update, or how is that going?
So Matt Berkshire started today. It's his first day.
Yay! You're going to be busy.
Yeah. So part of that relates to a software that we started to get our data into this past year. I mentioned Matt because this falls into his role as well. We have a meeting with our with the person for that company on Friday to talk about how do we get to a place where we have all of our data coming into this one place. So if we want to run special ed students at the middle school, 6th grade, it's not looking in 14 different places for all that data. It's compiling it all to one place and making it more accessible. We do that now and try to pull all this information. It's just very labor intensive to get it all in a way that makes sense. This, if it works how it should, will help with that.
Right, because I'd be curious to see, do we see the same type of learning loss over the summer that we see with the rest of the population and some of it? And so, well, so, okay, keep us posted. Thank you.
We'll continue. I'm hopeful that that works for how we want it to work. But we'll keep you posted.
Other
Anything
questions?
else on goals? I'm going to turn the screen off. I'll let Tracy announce the other thing, and then I'll go back to talking.
Okay, so thank you, Todd. I will honestly say, as I read the Decept Plan, it was good. And I think that it's readily apparent that the team that was learning behind it and so forth, and it really came through, and kudos. It's obvious it was a lot of work, so please thank everyone involved for it, and we're definitely heading in the right direction. So with that, I'd like to move on to 6.2, the reading program, K through 12. Again, Todd will be presenting with Karen Kohler from Questar 3, a ELA specialist. Thank you.
So round two with Todd. This time I bring a friend, Karen Kohler. So for those who don't know, Karen Kohler is our embedded ELA specialist from Questar that has worked with teachers in Greenville for 8 years.
Oh, no, I'm starting my 10th year.
Oh, 10th year.
With Questar and Greenville. I get very excited about this because Greenville was the very first district that I worked with in a coaching capacity in a very funny way. And I'll just tell a quick story. I know I think it's exciting. I received a call my second week as a Questar 3 specialist saying Jack, who was the person that was there before me, is gone, and he was supposed to be coming to do PD in our school in a week. And I thought, oh, I guess it's falling on me. And I came here, so nervous. I mean, it's intimidating going anywhere new, but brand new, not really sure of my new role with my new my new title. And it was the best district to come to. So I have such a warm heart, and this is true. Such a warm place in my heart for Greenville, even though it's just one of the 12 districts that I work with. So I'm thrilled to be here. This is yet another capacity to be here at a board meeting. So I thank you for inviting me,
And I thank you for coming. So tonight I wanted to give you some information. I know on the agenda it lists K12 Reading Program. Is really an update on a couple of different areas that all come back to ELA reading and literacy that we're working on really across the district. A lot of it gets focused at the elementary school, into the middle school, but kind of share on 3 areas. So the 3 areas, we're going to go through each one of them. 1 is instructional coaches, so we're going to talk about that first. 2 is summer curriculum work, so this actually goes back to the previous presentation on goals and that curriculum work and some things that have happened over the summer specific to reading that I think I will say we, because I know you are too, are excited about the work that has happened and the progress that has been made. And then the 3rd area is talking about the highest level of support for the students that need, that have deficits and need supports at the highest level, Tier 3, and also for special ed students, what we're looking at to shift to and bring some consistency in some of the resources and tools that we use for those students. So those are the 3 areas. So first, starting with instructional coaches, I wanted to touch on this. It incorporates ELA, literacy, reading, and also math. But because we've had progress on this over the summer, it is directly connected to the stimulus funds because we are using stimulus funds to create these positions for instructional coaches. When you think of everything we just talked about with the goals and connecting that back to our district vision document of curriculum instruction and assessment, we've done a lot of work in recent years of the curriculum piece, and while that work continues, making sure we also are shifting and putting emphasis on that instructional piece of what are the instructional practices that we are using in the classroom, and how do we, especially at the elementary school, bring consistency across classrooms in a grade level so that those instructional practices are serving students as they move from grade level to grade level. So there's a lot that goes with this, but those instructional coach positions we have created. We had 3 internal candidates that were interested, which is fantastic because a big piece of this is the relationships with the teachers. If Karen is the coach and I'm the classroom teacher, it's really important and critical that we have a strong working relationship and understand my role as the teacher, her role as the coach. So the fact that we had 3 teachers in-house that were interested in this and have previously demonstrated leadership roles and just an expertise in the areas of math and also in ELA. They are shifting into those roles, which I think is incredible. So where does this connect to ELA and literacy? 2 of those positions are specific for reading, ELA, and literacy K through 6th grade, so that we're bridging that connection from elementary school to middle school. And looking at how do we take the resources and tools that we're currently using and getting to a higher, more consistent level of full implementation. So we've talked about with the board before our units of study in reading, writing, and phonics at the elementary school. That over the past 3 years, we have been implementing to get to a level of full implementation where there's greater consistency classroom to classroom and a stronger understanding of what does a strong instructional approach look like within that model. So having these positions will assist with that immensely. And I also know, and I'm sure Karen can attest to this as well, our classroom teachers have been asking for this. Like, if somebody who's an expert in this area, Karen has done this work, we've utilized Questar for this purpose, but it's that much more time having an in-person or in-house person do this, is to visit a classroom and model. When we talk about a reading workshop lesson, help me, give me an example of conferring. When we're talking about conferring, what does it look like? I'll come in and model it for you so you have an understanding of when we talk about that, this is what it looks like. So that's one area. The instructional coaches, an exciting opportunity. We've talked about it for a number of years of how do we get to a place where we can make that happen. And now we're able to make that happen using the stimulus funds. So I think that's really important. So some of this is building off of the work that our Questar specialists have done in recent years. And in addition to that, Questar is offering an opportunity for our coaches to have support for them. So this is a unique role for a teacher to step into this type of role. So we want to make sure that they are supported in that role and have resources and professional development for them as a coach, what it means for them to do that role. So I'm going to ask Karen, because she's been working from Questar's perspective, of what that will look like of coaching the coaches.
Absolutely. And so the coaching role that I will have with your coaches will go beyond my embedded work here in Greenville and what we're doing. And this is all brand new. I feel horrible that my back is to some people, but I'm just going to keep talking. What we're doing is really, it's new this year because many districts like yourself have received some money that they can invest in the coaching model within their district. So we are going to take it to a regional level and offer support for the coaches that are in your district to come together with coaches in other districts. I get really excited about this because I'm a firm believer that collaboration and support go hand in hand. So your instructional coaches will have a team of instructional coaches, not just within these walls, but within the region, that they can work together with, confer, kind of bounce ideas off of. There will be some bumps in the road. What better place to help get over some bumps than with others that are experiencing similar bumps outside of these walls and other walls? So we're going to be leading that. Like I said, it's fairly new for me and my role at Questar, so I'm very excited to bring this to your coaches as well as coaches in the region so that we can support your teachers ultimately. I shouldn't say ultimately because the students are at the bottom. So we will be offering a coach the coaches type of model for your newly appointed instructional coaches. Did I capture it all?
You did.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. So that's the instructional coach. That was the first one. Number 2, summer curriculum work. So again, this goes back to the school improvement work that I mentioned earlier. This past year, we used some of the grant funds that come from being identified as a TSI school. We use those funds specifically for the intention of having summer curriculum work where teachers could put in a request to come in and work on areas of their curriculum. Could be in pairs, could be in groups, but to work on that curriculum over the summer where they have the ability to do it in a more intense way than what happens during the school year. So connecting this again to the conversation of reading and literacy at the elementary school, we've had several work sessions where teachers have come in groups as small as 3 teachers. I think the largest one got up to about a dozen teachers, and it was really in 2 different areas. The first one was specifically around a book. They actually used a book as a book study to go through the book and understand how that can be utilized as we go into this coming year. It's called Shifting the Balance, 6 Ways to Bring the Science of Reading into the Balanced Literacy Classroom. So this was a very well-received book from the teachers, well, specifically the teacher that found it and was interested in doing the book study, and then everybody that signed up and came in to look at it, because it really looks at, here are some things that we may have done this way in the past. Here's what here's what the science of reading and research shows. Here's how we can shift it to be more in line with that research. Doesn't mean we're throwing everything out and starting from scratch or what we did before was wrong. It's just saying, here's what we were doing previously, here's what the research shows, here's a shift that you can make that's going to get you more student achievement if you do this instead. But it was a very user-friendly book and very applicable for our teachers. So again, I'm going to ask Karen to share a little bit because she came one of the days where we had a group, that was probably about a dozen teachers came in that day, to look at each grade level within the elementary school with a lot of emphasis at K2. What does this mean for our teachers and how can we get it to a place where all teachers understand that as we go into this next school year?
Todd pretty much said it all.
Oh, sorry.
I was
I stole your
chomping at the
thunder.
bit over here. The book that he's referring to, Shifting the Balance, what I love about this book is it really pushed my thinking in this balanced literacy world, science of reading world. You hear a lot about it right now, and I know we've had a conversation around the reading wars. What I loved is because balanced literacy is a beautiful approach to teaching students and children how to read. The science of reading brings in more of the neurology behind it and sort of blend both to make sure you're really capturing both explicit teaching on top of immersive teaching. This book is taking good practice and bringing in the science and making sure we really are shifting our practice in the classroom to meet the needs of all students through science and the balanced immersive approach. Does that make sense? And so this book study has been very well received. And once again, anything that pushes thinking is just exciting and very, very motivating. So I look forward to working with Laura and Michelle. Those are your literacy
Thank you.
coaches. Oh, okay. I didn't know if I was supposed to.
No,
but
you can.
okay,
I
good.
should have. Thank you.
And they are on top of this book study and very excited about it. And how the one day that I was here just happened to be last week, if I'm not mistaken. We're talking about how do we get this out to all of the faculty, because we're not asking people to take on something new. We all know that's very challenging. There's so much going on in education. We're looking at what we're doing and making shifts to make sure that we're really bringing in the science behind literacy instruction. And that book just captured it beautifully. Very practical.
The nice thing about that book, if I could interject for a second, it's written by 2 teachers, and they give workshops around. So if you contact them, they do it virtually, and it's a wonderful way because they know what works. And from their perspective, with having been balanced literacy instructors, it's in the classroom, and so they're talking teacher to teacher.
I think that's a big part of why it was so well received.
Exactly.
Just looking at what's in the book, it's manageable, it makes sense, it's doable, it's not overwhelming when you look at it from the perspective of the teacher. I would agree. So that was one area of curriculum work that happened over the summer, again, using some of the grant funds from this previous year. The other area that really connects to that, but is a little bit different, is looking at the different levels of tiered support that we utilize at the elementary school. So what I mean by that is we have our tier 1 or core content or core curriculum that all students are getting in the classroom. What the work was this summer was looking at tier 2 and tier 3. So tier 2 students that are struggling, have not mastered that content and need some additional support. And then tier 3, students that are struggling even more and need additional support, they go up the pyramid when we show that pyramid structure of RTI. So looking at tier 2 and tier 3, what resources and tools do we use to support students in tier 2 depending on, or based on what deficit they have as a student? This is an area where we have lots of different tools. There are a lot of different things that are out there. And in the information age, there's so much out there that teachers can look for, and there's a lot of great resources. But what sometimes happens is you get all these great different resources and everybody's using a different great resource. It's not so great when everybody's doing something different. So the purpose behind this was to bring more consistency. Okay, what resources do we use at Tier 2 to bring more consistency to that? What do we use at Tier 3? There's a lot of great ideas out there, but it works the best when we have more consistent use of those practices at Tier 2 and Tier 3. So there were a couple of different work sessions around that and building out how do we identify students and get more specific about the deficit that they have when it comes to reading, and then what are the supports that we put in place for that Tier 2 and Tier 3. So that was all curriculum work directly connected to our TSI plans from this previous year and using those funds over the summer, which I will absolutely say have been a great use of those funds. So that leads into our third and final piece of our share, which is that Tier 3, so the highest level of support. So those students that are struggling and need that highest level of support, and that also goes into our special ed students that have what's called special class reading as part of their IEP and have that scheduled in their day, the highest areas of need or support for those students. So that's another area where in the past, we've had a variety of different pieces, all good, but different programs, different tools, different resources being used, trying to bring some consistency to that. So in July, we had specifically a group of 9 faculty members, which was a great mix. So it was 4 special ed teachers, 2 reading teachers, 2 classroom teachers. They happen to be the ones that are shifting to this instructional coach model, and then our speech-language pathologist from the elementary school, as well as Karen and her colleague Melissa, who is the special ed specialist from Questar, came together as a group to look at what are the different resources that we are using and have used and are aware of, and what do we want to recommend as a group coming together to build more consistency. So again, I'll turn to Karen to share a little bit more about what we did on that day and the work that happened.
Yes, it was a very exciting day. The time flew by, and as Todd had mentioned, it kind of came out that we had a lot of resources. So where can we really hone in and focus on what these kids that are struggling the most to progress in reading and writing, especially the reading end of it, what can we do for them to be consistent both horizontally and vertically? So we started off with an understanding of the science of reading, what it means, what's happening in the brain when students are learning to read, so that we can have a common ground for looking for something, a resource or a tool that could really make sure we're addressing the science behind how students that struggle learn to read. Then we put out there all of the different resources that you currently have at your fingertips, the teachers are using. You know, I've used some of this, I've been trained a little bit in this, and we started putting paper out around the room, and teachers were going through and they pulled out their computers. We were looking into various resources and tools that we could use to address the needs of the students that are the neediest, our neediest population. We started putting it out on paper, and by the end of the day, after conversations and a lot of mapping out on chart paper, Really Great Reading was the paper, the chart, that stood out as a tool that the teachers felt comfortable in looking further into and kind of bringing on board. And there were a variety of reasons why it stood out. It is a tool that offers explicit instruction, a systematic approach to instruction that is aligned scientifically to what our science tells us these students need in order to progress in reading. And the big piece was that a few of the people sitting in the room with us had some training or some knowledge, some experience using some of the pieces or resources within that tool. So that was what we put forward to Todd at the end of the day when he came back in to check on us. And everyone was really excited. So that's kind of where we ended our day, was that possibly Really Great Reading would be the tool that we would bring forward to bring into the district, receive training on, and because you have the funds through the stimulus money, all of the stakeholders, the teachers that would be involved in this will be trained, which is a big piece, and was a big concern during the day. And receive some resources to make sure they have the tools within that curriculum resource to implement with some fidelity. So that's kind of how that day went. Another really exciting day here at Greenville.
Can you tell Karen loves coming to Greenville?
I do. I get really excited when I'm working with teachers that are so passionate. I'm very passionate, as you can see, about the students and what they need, and really making sure all of us are doing our best to move these kids along.
So what we're looking to do with Really Great Reading is it's an opportunity to have more consistent resources and tools, again, for that Tier 3 and special ed, special class reading. But it also provides an opportunity to have consistent training for all those teachers, our special ed teachers at the elementary school, our reading teachers. We're actually looking to also include our TAs that support our self-contained classrooms. Not that they would be teaching it, but just so that they have some of that consistent common language and are aware of, oh, that's why we do it that way. And this is what to avoid in saying it this way. So looking to have that consistent training. This is also listed in our plans for using the stimulus funds for that training, and then also getting some of those resources, the actual physical materials that come along with that. So all of that, again, connecting back to the work that is happening around ELA, literacy and reading. It certainly connects back to our district plans and the goals that we shared earlier. As a lot has happened this summer, I thought it was important to share that work specifically. And again, can't tell, Karen and I are excited about the work that has happened this summer and how it sets us up for the work that we'll do in September. Any other questions?
So I have one.
Yes.
I may have missed it, so is there a timeline for this?
For this tool specifically?
Yes.
So, yes, there is. We're looking to do a training the week before school starts, that any teachers that are able to come will come for that specific training. They also offer an online virtual training that teachers can do at their own pace prior to the start of the school year. So anybody that can't come to that one day can do it separately. And then in terms of the actual resources, materials, we're looking to get those for September for the elementary school. For the middle school, high school, the older students, they have to take a screener, like a diagnostic tool first, to place them where it makes sense for them to start. So rather than order resources at all these different levels, doing that first and then getting the resources based on where the students fall. So that the plan is using this tool resource starting right in September. A lot of it does start with that diagnostic, the initial assessment piece, and then folding it into the intervention.
So what I heard was an immediate implementation.
Yes. Could I have just said that? That would have been a very short.
That would have been fun.
To get it started very quickly, very soon. And I will say, the 9 faculty members that came together that day were very excited about the opportunity to have this going into this school year so that they have that shared, consistent tool that they can work on collaboratively together too, so that they're all more on the same page. Yes.
Had any of the 9 been using that tool?
They've used pieces of it. So Really Great Reading offers a variety of different professional development. So I know there's sessions that they sometimes run just on the science of reading. So some of our teachers have attended little pieces of PD that they offer that anybody can attend. This is being more intentional about that. But what people have used, they liked, which Karen was saying was part of the discussion that day.
Yeah.
The teachers that have used pieces of it found that students engaged in it, and they saw growth in those specific individual students.
Good salesman.
Yes, absolutely. No, not at all. Sorry, Brooke, I didn't mean to go for it.
From the special ed perspective, it's kind of funny because some of the teachers have been telling me, oh, you should, oh, it's on there? Okay. Some of the teachers have been saying, oh, you should check out this really great reading program. Okay, so what is this really great reading program? You know, I'm thinking, I didn't know the title of the reading program was this really great reading program. So they, over the past year or two, they have been discussing this program, and we've had some of our teachers are trained in, actually one now actually was trained in the Wilson method for teaching, and then another one was in Orton Gillingham. And there are some really great programs that you can utilize with special ed students, but in looking at all of the data and looking at the specific instruction that needs to be provided on a bigger scale, the Really Great Reading program actually provides that
level of support, especially for those tier 3 students. And the nice thing is that it does offer they're called surveys, which are these intermittent assessments that actually tie in nicely with a student's IEP. And so then we're able to have better progress monitoring for those students and really hone in on, okay, these are the specific, say, open and closed syllables that these students really need. Okay, great. All right, now I know what I need to do. We focus on this. We do the remediation. We follow the program. There's a lot of reinforcement with this program. There's a home school connection as well as the classroom connection, as well as some independent work that students can be using not only through paper materials, but also through digital resources. So, and then when the team got together, unfortunately I wasn't able to be there because I was on vacation, but they came back to me and said, oh no, this was great, we got to meet, this is something that I really would like to pursue because it ties in everything nicely, but it also gives that systematic instruction. So it's kind of, I don't want to say it's a one size fits all, but it lends to supporting those students at that highest level with that specific instruction, as well as tying it back to all of the classroom instruction, if that makes sense. Thank you, Todd. Sorry, didn't mean to.
By all means. Any other questions?
I had a question. Does the program have decodables as part of what you buy?
So it provides some decodable text digitally.
Okay.
They as a company don't produce decodable books, but certainly it's part of the tool, but we can get decodable books from other sources.
Okay.
We already have a fair number of those, and we have other online digital, like Reading A to Z has digital decodable books. But they as a company don't sell them. It's just not part of what they offer.
Brooke, yes.
Also participate in, it's called bookshare.org, Bookshare. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yes.
It's specifically for students with reading and print deficits, and they have thousands upon thousands of decodable books, articles, newspapers, whatever level of print a child with a disability would need.
So will we still be using the leveled readers to kind of assess where they're at, or will there be a different way of assessing tier 2, tier 3, and so forth?
So for this, there's specific, as Brooke was saying, they call them surveys. That was the term I couldn't remember before.
Yeah, so
Go
to
for it.
answer your question, yes, they're going to continue with the regular program, their regular classroom programs. This is going to layer on nicely. So if, say for instance, if you're reading, I don't know, at an F&P level C, and you have significant deficits with specific diagraphs, well then that would alert, the reading teacher and or the special ed teacher who's working with that child in a special class reading to really hone in on those specific levels and then utilize that program to help them do that area. So it's multifaceted. I mean, they're really great. I'm sorry, I just have a problem with the game of words.
Really great reading.
It's just bizarre, but it really, when you start delving into it and looking at the resources.
It is really great.
What?
You dig into it, it really is really great.
It's really great in that it's multifaceted, so it will nicely fit into everything that we are using and actually just enhance the remediation of those students that need it the most.
Cool.
Well,
Yeah.
I was originally going to vote for Karen as the most enthusiastic, but I think we got a tie here.
Perfect. And I just want to add
Team
before
effort.
we move on, that decodable books piece that you're asking about was something that day came up as, wait, we need to look into it a little more to find out, why don't they have those? They use passages that are decodable, and it brought up the fact that our classroom teachers at the core, at the tier 1 level, have been really looking heavily, especially at your K2 grade levels, at getting decodable books for their own core instruction for students in
Cool.
the classroom. So I'm glad you brought that up. It was definitely, I don't want to say a flag, but it was a piece that we looked at like, we need to know more about why decodable books weren't one of the components that they put out there for us.
They're training wheels. The way that I describe it is they're training wheels for young readers.
And good news is we do have money. You can't understand how many times I say Todd has money. Those are on the
make things
list of
happen,
things
Karen.
we'd like to supplement, both classroom and beyond.
Todd, how is this going to be rolled out? Is it, you going to start with K2 as far as the surveys go or your assessment tool? And then, or is it going to be elementary school wide?
So remember, this is for the highest tier and then special ed, so it's really
Oh,
starting with
okay.
special ed students. It will be any special ed student that has special class reading on their IEP, starting with them. There are certainly tools and resources that could then, trickle down tier 2 students if they need certain pieces, but we're starting with that
My original
special ed.
question in my mind was, if too many students test at your higher level, will we have staffing issues? Or how are they going to be placed with students?
So some of that, I'll look to you for a little bit. So some of it, the special class reading is based on their IEP. We know those numbers.
Right.
They might, when they take the survey or the assessment, it tells us what level within really great reading they're gonna start at for their service or their support. But they're all gonna take that survey.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So we know those numbers. We have the numbers.
That's
Those
actually
students,
what
we know that right now.
I wanted to know if you
Brooke
knew
and I
where
were-
you,
And Dave, there is the RTI process, so when there's a student that's falling behind, we know at the elementary level, they benchmark all students 3 times a year. So if we're finding out that, once that student has been benchmarked, tier 1 has been put in place in the classroom, if that student responds, great. If they don't, they come back, then we look at another tier 2. So, it's constantly flowing, and those reading teachers, it kind of just is a good system that works through the RTI.
Right.
So some students get referred to.
I was just
special ed.
wondering if you know roughly, and I'm sure you do roughly, the numbers you have in, or are going to end up in your
Yeah.
tiers.
Well, I can tell you definitely for the special class reading, because that's,
Okay.
those are all mapped out. And the goal is to have all the special ed teachers, K-12, trained in this
Yeah,
program. and
well,
start using it.
yeah, Todd, I was looking at some of our data in this plan, beyond the special ed, it looks like we need to improve reading, and that's why we're there.
Yes.
Is there a plan to implement any of this to the whole classroom?
So again,
yet.
this tool is really more tier 3 in the special
Okay, and
class
beyond,
reading.
okay.
But what I was mentioning earlier, the curriculum work that was happening this summer, they were looking at that pyramid. What do we have as resources that we use at tier 2? How do we become more consistent about what those resources are? So the answer to your question is yes, that's other work that's happening. Some of it might end up being tools that come from really great reading, but there are other options there too that we use.
You must have, or we must have students that are great in all areas, but they're functioning not up to par in reading. Would this program be, and it may be 2 or 3 kids, would this be available to them?
It can be, it depends on what is their skill deficit and what did they have to work on for that individual student. Again, that's that tier, pyramid of what's in tier 2 and what are the different resources that we have. I know I'm repeating myself, but it comes down to, again, what's that kid's deficit? Some of it might end up being, it could get pulled from these resources that we're now gaining from being, from using really great reading, but there's also other things that we already use.
Right. I was wondering how iReady scores that generates would maybe cross-match with some of this to better identify.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. In terms of identifying students that need tier 2 support, then it goes to kind of a deeper level of, okay, what is it that they're actually struggling with? What's their specific deficit? iReady gives us some of that, but some of it you need additional, in this case, the survey, the screener. What is that student struggling with that's prohibiting them from being grade level proficient? So this is really, this whole conversation, really great reading, it is one tool one resource in a very large toolbox, but trying to get to a place where for special class reading in tier 3, we're more consistent about using this tool for this reason when students have this deficit.
Perfect.
But more work to do.
And the other piece is that it builds. So if a special ed teacher in first grade was utilizing this program and then goes on to second grade, the special class reading teacher can then say, oh, I can pick up right where I left. Instead of having to do all these other assessments again, this just will build all the way up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah.
Yeah, and most importantly, building on that, is that the student, if you ever followed a student through a school day, the jargon, I mean, we look up at a slide deck and we see acronyms and jargon. Kids are getting it from different programs and teachers and resources, and so the more consistent we can be with these students, especially students that struggle with our language and our pattern and our system, they go from grade level to grade level or teacher to teacher, they don't have to rehear and relearn language. They've got it. They've got the system. So we're just continuing that path to keep them moving and growing. So I love the piece that it's a K12. And we had, I don't know if you mentioned, you may have, we had a high school special reading teacher here on the day that we were looking at all this. And she came out of here so excited. And I thought, wow, high school, this is beautiful. So it's going to be an exciting year to see what's happening with this resource. And I envision really, I envision wonderful things coming out of this program. I almost said really great, because I love it. It wasn't even a joke, I had to stop myself. But I'm hopeful and very excited about everything that we read and learned just in that day. So.
I just have one last comment or question. Have we thought about pre-K and phonemic awareness for pre-K?
So there is a piece of it that can go down to pre-K.
Okay.
That was not part of the conversation that day.
Yet.
They have a resource that can be used for that.
Okay.
We can certainly explore it. What we're looking to purchase in the training doesn't include that at this time, but again, doesn't mean we can't expand to that as the need arises.
Everything builds reading. They've determined it's phonemic awareness, and then you can get into the letter grapheme relationship. Yeah. Thanks. It's exciting. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Todd and Karen.
Thank you, Karen Kohler, for coming tonight. I appreciate
Thanks for having me
her
here.
expertise in the work she does with us.
Thank you. Oh, I'm following suit.
Thank you very much. Now, moving on to action items. 7.1, approve the minutes of the July 12th, 2021 organizational meeting. Could I have a, we're going to combine 7.1 and 7.2, so it'll be the minutes for the business meeting also. If I could have a motion to approve the minutes on the July 12th organization and business meeting. Second.
Jay is second, thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Angela?
Okay. 7.3, accept the finance reports. I need a motion to approve the finance reports for the month ending June 30th, 2021, and July 31st, 2021.
Okay, Eric?
A second.
Jim, thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
7.4, I need a motion to approve the personnel agenda.
You sit on your hands. Okay. Anybody?
Anyone?
Okay.
Jay, thank you. I need a second. Jim, thank you.
Any discussion?
Lots.
Go ahead, Dave.
Why do I have to go? I don't want to ruin Tammy's day. She already, she's having a great day. Congratulations.
It's been very difficult, thank you.
Yeah, I bet. I just wanted to know if we had geez, I forgot the word. Do we have a job description for the reading interventionists, the math interventionists, and the coaches? Or an outline?
Yes. So we have definitely worked on, excuse me, the coaches in depth and reviewed them with each of the coaches of what the expectations are. The reading interventionist is really the reading teachers that have currently exist. Is there, did we write that out, Todd? I don't think so.
No, I didn't see.
No. So the coaches, yes.
Todd had mentioned that we have some staff that are going to slide into those positions. And I'm assuming some of the people we're going to approve tonight are replacing those people, those folks at the elementary school. When the funding runs out, have we discussed how they're going to slide back? Or is the plan that we're going to have coaches in continuum?
So the plan is, 3 years is a long time to discuss it and for the board to make determination of what's working. For the cost, I don't see the budget just assuming those 3 positions. So what's going to happen is the current people that are being appointed is there's going to be retirements each year. So they are appointed to probationary appointments. So I feel secure that everyone that's appointed tonight due to retirements in the next 3 years, and that's what the board's going to have to be looking at as they budget. Is there one that you want at the end of 3 years? Do you slowly start to budget that? And do you slowly start to wean it so that you try not to hurt anyone at the end? Does that make sense?
Yep, that's a good plan. And I'm assuming that we've checked with retirement system that their seniority continues?
Yes,
Because it
it's
is.
not retired.
They're
It's,
similar positions.
the law is that their tenure and seniority continues as elementary ed.
Right, and they're aware of that.
They are aware of that.
And, okay, I was wondering about the discussion with the new hires as to whether or not they understand that, they are probationary, but they may not, if things work out unplanned, that they are a fill-in position.
If we needed to abolish any positions, it would be the last one. But I'm very confident in 3 years, just knowing the staff and who plans to retire in the next few years.
And they're still all subject to the 10-year rules anyway, right?
Yes,
Yeah. Thank you, Tammy.
you're welcome.
Any other questions, discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I would like to pause. We do have 2 that are appointed tonight. We have Melissa Seberg, who's been with the district about 5 years, working as our home and careers, our fax position part-time, and she's received a probationary appointment and her certification at the elementary school. And we have Erica Hamilton, who has been appointed tonight for math, and she's one of our alumni, so I congratulate both of them that are here tonight.
Okay.
We also just hired 3 of my former students. Must be me,
You're known by the company you keep.
all right?
7.5, approve the 2021-2022 district goals and district comprehensive improvement plan. I need a motion to approve.
Okay, Eric and Jay, thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed.
You
Any-
oppose?
I am.
Okay.
I need a motion to approve the district safety plan for the 2021-22.
Okay, Duncan and Eric and Dave.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to establish the tax warrant for the 2021-22 school year.
Okay, I have Duncan and Eric.
Any discussion? All in, do I need to read the be it resolved? Daphne, should I read?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay,
That'd be-
all right.
That'd be okay.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Greenville Central School District establish the amount of $17,358,979 as a tax warrant for the 2021-22 school year, with an additional $70,895 support for the Greenville and Rensselaerville libraries. Vote? Yes, okay. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? Thanks. See, when you throw me off my loop. All right, I need another motion to accept the 2021-22 bus routes.
Okay, Jay and Eric, thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
I need a motion to approve the Questar 3 initial service contract with the Greenville Central School District for the 21-22 school year.
Eric, second, Jay, thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
I need a motion to approve the intermunicipal agreement between the Greenville Central School District and the Cairo-Durham Central School District for transportation of Greenville students to Wildwood Latham for the 2021 summer program.
Okay, Duncan and Eric, thank you.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay,
I need a motion to approve the contract transportation extensions for special education routes for the 21-22 school year. The current contract will be extended using the 2021 rate plus the CPI Consumer Price Index, or 3.2%.
okay, Eric, Jay, thank you.
Any discussion?
So which is it, CPI or 3.2?
That's what it is.
So we should say equal, 3.2?
Which is 3.2.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to award the contract transportation bid to Kasaki Transport for the 21-22 school year to transport students to Rensselaer Academy in the amount of $337 per diem. Estimated cost is $62,345 for one student.
Okay, Jay and Eric, thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I need a motion to accept the donation to the Greenville Central School District for the Greenville Middle School High School PTSA in the amount of $47.52 to purchase freeze pops for the middle school summer program.
Dave and Duncan,
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve surplus items.
I have Eric and Jay. Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And approve the surplus, I need a motion to approve the surplus bid award for a van.
Okay, Jay and,
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to appoint the Pioneer Occupational Therapy to provide occupational therapy educational services for fiscal years ending June 30th, 2022 through June 30th, 2024.
and Jim?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. With that, moving on to discussions. Superintendent Tammy Sutherland, excuse me. I'm like, what? Sutherland, we'll
Where did
talk
that
about the
come
fall opening. I don't know.
I have not met a Sutherfield, just letting you know.
Okay.
Okay. So reopening, this is just going to really be just an overview of where we stand right now. For quite a while now, we've been waiting for official guidelines from the governor's office and the New York State Department of Health. These were promised guidelines And Thursday of last week, we received notification that school districts will not be receiving those guidelines. So I think that's important to note that we're not going to receive official guidelines from the state level. But that doesn't mean we haven't been working with our local Department of Health. So school districts have been working together, reviewing, everyone saying that we need to look to the CDC guidelines. So we've been reviewing the CD guideline recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics. And most important, we've been working with our local health departments. So over the past 4 weeks, I have represented Greene County superintendents by participating in regional meetings. So this has been a superintendent from each of the different counties, their respective BOCES, and approximately 10 local Department of Health were part of these regional meetings to try to help us be consistent as we looked at the guidelines to determine what school districts should be doing. In addition, I've been meeting each week with our BOCES, which is Questar 3, and Greene County Department of Health, having those meetings with all of Greene County schools. At the same time, Questar 3 has been working with Columbia County with their superintendents from Columbia County and Rensselaer County with the superintendents from Rensselaer County. So those have been weekly meetings. And of course, the purpose is to assist us in putting these plans together. So our main goal, which is the most important, is to bring all students back to in-person instruction as safely as possible, while being aware of the higher transmission rates of the Delta variant. So to begin with, I thought I should share a portion of a letter that surrounding districts received from their local DOH, and the full letter I linked in my family letter that was sent out today. So I'm not going to read the full letter. I'm going to read a decent amount of it because I think it's important. So while we received this from Kimberly Kaplan, which is the Director of Public Health for Greene County, very similar, if not exact, letters were sent from other local Department of Health to their school districts. Okay, so it starts out, Dear Superintendents, the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, recommend for the 2021-2022 school year that all K12 schools adopt universal masking for teachers, staff, students, and visitors, regardless of COVID-19 vaccination status. CDC's guidance also addresses higher risk sports and extracurricular activities. So where I would pause there while they're saying the 21-22 school year, where I would recommend that we start conservative, I would not just say a blanket for an entire school year. I would say that this is something, last year our plans were living documents that were changing, becoming more restrictive if we needed it, or becoming less restrictive if the data was showing that. So that is how I would recommend that we start again in September, more conservative, and then pulling back depending on any cases that we have and how we need to react to that. So back to the letter. Collectively, we as the Capital Region Local Health Department, commissioners and directors are writing to reinforce these public health recommendations and understand that students benefit from in-person learning on a multitude of levels. Safely returning students to an in-person instruction is a priority, and we ask that you share the science behind the American Academy of Pediatrics and the CDC recommendations with the families you serve. So a couple considerations they wrote are, in New York State, the Delta variant has been found to be the predominant strain of COVID-19 currently circulating. This is a significant change since last school year. The data shows that the Delta variant behaves differently than the other strands of the virus. It is much more contagious and represents a threat, particularly to unvaccinated individuals. New data shows that people infected with the Delta have higher viral loads, meaning more virus is in their body than with the previous variants. While most breakthrough infections are mild, the Delta is also causing some vaccine breakthrough infections. It goes on to say we recommend to urge those that are eligible to get vaccinated. At this time, since vaccination is only approved for those 12 years and older, it is extremely important that children return to in-person learning environment with layered prevention strategies in place. Layered prevention strategies, and a lot of this is things that we've done last year. Layered prevention strategies include indoor masking, screening and testing, ventilation, hand washing, respiratory etiquette, staying home when sick and getting tested, contact tracing in combination with quarantine and isolation, and cleaning and disinfection of the school environment. So screening and testing strategies for unvaccinated students, teachers, and staff is recommended dependent on the level of community transmission of COVID-19 as follows. So last year, if you remember, we did survey our families and ask who was willing to have their students tested if we did surveillance testing. We never actually did testing beyond sports last year, but this is what they're talking about, to try to do a layered prevention to try to protect everyone. So this is not in the letter. This is something that I looked up. Is under the CDC guidelines, there is a link where you can pull up the community transmission level for any of the counties in New York. So, and beyond, it's not just New York, any state. So today when I pulled up Greene County, so you can be low, moderate, substantial, or high. So when I pulled up Greene County, last week it was listed as moderate, this week it's listed as substantial. Albany County, last week when I looked, it was substantial, this week it's listed as high. So levels of community transmission is defined as the total new cases per 100,000 persons in the past 7 days and a percentage of positive tests in the past 7 days. So they're looking at two things. So I just wanted you to know where Greene County, and of course half of our district is in Albany County, where we stand right now, and that's something that we can look at weekly. So in going back to the letter, screening testing, this is what they're recommending, at least once a week is recommended when community transmission is at moderate, substantial, or high levels of community transmission. Schools may consider multiple testing strategies in consultation with the local and state health authorities. So for example, they can test a random sample of 10% of students who are not fully vaccinated or conduct pool testing of cohorts. To facilitate safe participation in sports, extracurricular activities, and other activities with elevated risks, such as activities that involve singing, shouting, band, and exercise that could lead to increased exhaling, schools are recommended to implement screening testing for participants who are not fully vaccinated and who could come into close contact with others during these activities. And high-risk sports and extracurricular activities should be virtual or canceled in areas of high community transmission unless all participants are fully vaccinated. So those are the recommendations based on community transmission.
So as a refresher for my mind, you said that currently Greene County is moderate?
Substantial.
Substantial, and Albany County is high.
As of this week, last week they were moderate and substantial. So I think this is going to be something that just can fluctuate very easily.
So with the high in Albany County and Greene County at substantial, where do we decide as far as sports go if we were going to make a decision? Are we going to just pick, which county is going to be our decision point?
It's Greene County where the school is located. So I would recommend that we test this is high risk.
Okay.
But, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to include others, but something we can talk about when we get to athletics a little bit. So that is the letter that basically was sent out. So I thought it was important to read just portions of that. So, I mean, we've heard some of it tonight. We know that there's different thoughts, and we definitely know that there's emotions related to using the CDC guidelines and the recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics. So while we are planning to begin the school year, I recommend that we begin it from a place of caution, basing our decisions on the safety of students, employees, and families. I don't see how we can ignore the CDC or the American Academy of Pediatrics recommendation. So this is why it's been so important for us as school districts to be meeting regionally, because we want to make sure that we're in agreement with what we're doing so that school districts, where we can be, are following the same guidelines and doing the same things. So Craig Hansen of Questar 3, he's the one that's really from working with all of us. So we've started to put down what does the CDC guidelines say under different categories, just so that I can share it. I have another meeting tomorrow with RCG superintendents, and Wednesday is my weekly meeting. So this is still just the draft as we're starting to put it all together. So the big thing is, of course, is we want to bring all of our students back. So you're not going to do that with physical distances of 6 feet, which is what we were required to do last year. And that's why we had remote classes, and that's why we had the hybrid, 2 days on, 2 days off. So physical distancing for CDC, instead of 6 feet between our students, wherever possible, we will have a minimum of 3 feet of physical distance in all classrooms and areas in school buildings. This would include teacher stations when necessary to accommodate a full class, but where we could, we would allow 6 feet. We're going to review of mask breaks when physically distanced, and this is an area I would say that we keep seeing how much we can, based on any cases that are out there, and based on talking with our local health department, how long and can we start building on mask breaks. Community transmission levels will be monitored with our local health department. Physical education, these were some changes that happened at the end of last year. We'll continue with 6 feet distance. If you remember last year, it was 12 feet. So they will continue at 6 feet distance for those engaged in physical aerobic activities indoors. Band chorus went last year from 12 to 6 feet, and so this will continue at 6 feet distances for aerosol emitted activities for those engaged in singing, playing wind instruments, and play rehearsals. And drama, again, maintain minimum distance of 3 feet, and if singing, 6 feet. So that's under physical distancing. So the big change there is going from 6 feet to 3 feet from last year's guidelines. Mask in schools, you heard me read what they're recommending. So masks to be required for all staff and students inside school buildings, regardless of vaccination status. Mask exemptions, as was last year, are allowed for individuals if it's a disability as defined by the Americans with Disability Act. So they would have to submit the paperwork to prove that. I think this past year we had 1. Is that correct? 1 or 2?
I think there were 5, but because they were outside.
That were located in our district. Right. Right. In general, individuals do not need to wear a mask while outdoors. This will be different is what they're talking for sports right now, unless that activity involves sustained close contact with other people. And we will be sharing consistent and correct mask usages and recommended mask standards. It's all about layering. A lot of people like the, whatever it's called that you pull up. Gaiters, thank you. Gaiter in itself is not bad, but that thin little layer, it needs to be a layered gaitered. So we're just going to be talking about what families should be sending their students in. So then the big 2 things that we really were talking at as a regional level, that if you want us to have students back, and we all want our students back, where we need the biggest ability is buses. We need to have more students on buses than 6 feet socially distanced, and we need them to be able to eat less than 6 feet apart. So those were our big things that we really had to work with the local Department of Health to bring kids back. So right now, our local Department of Health under buses has agreed to allow for full occupancy of buses with the following protocols. Mask use for all staff and students. We need to have seating charts for contact tracing protocols. So if there's ever a student that we're told has COVID, that we know exactly where they sat on the bus and exactly who was around them. Windows and roof hatches, they want them to be opened for ventilation, and continued cleaning and disinfection practices that already have been in place. So we would continue that. So that is under buses. Under cafeteria and meals, appropriate physical distancing in cafeterias and eating areas to provide the necessary meals to students in attendance. And they know that school districts can't do it 6 feet apart. We've had desks in there. Well, our desks now need to go back into the classrooms because we're bringing more students back. So we will be using our cafeteria tables, but we'll be strategically placing them, trying to get that 3 feet. But the things that they want us, the layered mitigation they're looking for is hand washing, hand sanitizer before and after meals, limited mask removal to the duration of eating. And so they're considering less than 15 minutes. They have longer than that, but what they want students take it off, students eat, then students put it right back on. And so if they're going to then be talking and visiting, but let's take care of eating first and then put the mask back on. Cleaning and disinfection between table use. These are things that we've done, so it's just things that we are continuing to do. Provide increased ventilation of seating areas where possible. Cohorting where possible. We've already told the principals that they will need to have seating charts also in the cafeterias. We will need to have the same students sitting in the same area just in case we have to do contact tracing. So that is our cafeteria. And then just a list of continued multi-layered mitigation strategies. So we're going to be talking with students about, again, screening their child to keep symptomatic students at home, adults staying at home when sick, children staying at home when sick, hand washing. Again, these are just repeating things that worked last year. Respiratory etiquette, hand sanitizer, cleaning and disinfection, improved ventilation, our isolation room. So if a student went to the nurse and they weren't feeling good, they were put into what we call the isolation room, and this was just to keep them from interacting until they were able to be picked up and that we knew whether they had COVID or not. And we'll continue to work with the local health department on contact tracing. I would say last year they started at very conservative, where they would take the entire bus and they would take the entire class, but by the end they realized the spread was not happening on school sites, and so they really were looking at individual instances and who was around those students, who was around them in the cafeteria, who was around them in the classroom, so they weren't just doing this blanket, so many people are quarantined at the same time. Because I know that was a lot of frustration with parents, especially if it was repetitive, that their child was quarantined. So they're really looking at who was in close proximity with the student or adult who has tested positive. And now surveillance testing and point of care testing. So there's federal stimulus money for counties, and our county, as many of the other counties, have filed the paperwork to help school districts with surveillance testing and with point of care testing. So we talked about surveillance testing. We were using those cards. We'll still use those cards until they give us something else that was just up a small portion of the nostril and was not invasive at all. But then there's going to be, and it's not going to be ready by September, Greene County just submitted the grant a couple weeks ago, but each school is supposed to be getting a piece of equipment that tests symptomatic. So by symptomatic, this is don't come if you're not feeling good, don't send your children if they're not feeling good to be tested. This is if someone becomes symptomatic during the day, we could quickly provide a test right here in the district. This would be, again, funded by the county through federal stimulus funds. We would know right away, is it COVID, is it not? If it is, then obviously the entire family. So it's a real quick notice, because we would send students home to be quarantined, and it was 5 days later, we were finding out, oh, they don't have COVID, you can come back. So it is supposed to at least help with that. Athletics, we are still waiting for more guidance for athletics. Follow-up local health department to guidelines. So again, we anticipate to conduct the rapid antigen testing that we did last year. So the CDC recommends testing for all sports levels, so I incorrectly first said high risk. So they recommend testing for all sports level, low, intermediate, and high risk if community transmission levels are in the moderate, substantial, or high levels. High-risk sports are recommended to be tested twice per week if in the substantial levels. If in the high-risk level, high-risk sports are, the recommendation is they are to be canceled or placed on hold unless all participants are vaccinated, which we know would not be the case. So per the guidelines, I know this was a concern that I received today. So per the guidelines, the district is encouraging those eligible to be vaccinated. At this time, the district will not mandate vaccination for employees or students. So I know that was a concern. So I want to at least say that there will be no mandate at this time from the school district. So that is, again, the meetings are continuing. We're trying to be consistent. We're going to send a survey out this week. We want to know from our parents. Some of them, a lot of them drove last year. Do they still plan on driving this year, or would they send their students on the bus so that Mary can start to work on what that means for our schools? And we would be interested in who is. So the surveillance testing is by permission. The district
Are
will
you-
only do it if the parents gave permission.
Are you asking parents now if they're going to drive?
We are going to send out the survey, yes.
It's going to happen.
Yep. So hopefully by the end of this week, a survey would go out asking several questions so we can get an idea of where families are feeling right now.
You mentioned the cafeteria and contact tracing. Is there going to be assigned seating,
Yes,
like the buses?
just like the buses.
Will that communication with the parents that's going out in the next day or two, or whenever this week,
We can share that.
identify those kind of issues?
I don't know if it's this week, if those fine details will be sent out. We're just going to ask them several questions. But obviously this, as we finalize a reopening plan, it will go out to all families, yes.
So the
I mean, in most cases, kids
The kids
sit,
will get on the bus the first day knowing they have an assigned seat.
yes.
Are parents required to do temperature checks?
So we are hoping that part actually goes away, but that they still do their own at home. I
Right.
shouldn't say that at home.
No,
We're
no, but the
hoping that
reporting.
that here in the district, because
Okay.
we've been looking at, talking to so many districts, and we had all year one temperature that was high, and it was not COVID. So that's been a lot of labor-intensive work that's not been producing anything. So we're trying to sunset that part, but
Any other questions? It's a lot of information. It's continuously changing. Thank you for the update, and I think we all understand just how dynamic a process it is, and that you're taking in all the information as quickly as you can and really communicating it out to the community, to parents, to everyone. So we just ask for a little bit of patience. We know how hard you're working and so forth. So thank you.
welcome.
So now under discussion, if we could have an update, we'll have an update at the elementary classroom renovations by Rich. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
So how's it going?
What's that? I'm going to give an update on the project that's going on down the elementary school. Everything's going well down there. We did a walkthrough Friday night, and everything looks good. So I'm going to kind of give you a week-by-week update on what happened throughout the summer, and then we'll see if you have any questions. Week of June 30th, we started out with asbestos abatement. That all went well. They did that all week pretty much, or from the 30th on. Week of July 5th, which was a long 4th of July weekend, we didn't start back till Tuesday. So they did final air tests on the abatement, everything come back negative, so they could start work the next day. They started to tear out the walls, the ceilings, the grid work for the ceilings, and started to tear out the floor on that week. The week of July 12th, they finished tearing up the linoleum floor. The plumbers came in to lay out the new water and sewer lines for the sinks that were in the classrooms. And the electrician came in and started doing his wiring for tearing out wiring at that point in time, and then starting the new wiring for the walls and stuff. The week of July 19th, the plumbers were there to continue on with the new water and sewer lines. They continued framing the interior walls. There was one interior wall that divided the two classrooms, and then walls behind the cabinets that are going in with the sinks in them. That Wednesday, they cleaned the floors out, cleaned the floors up, got them ready. The next day, they came in Thursday and did a concrete level to level all the floors and everything. And then that had to sit for 4 days, so they didn't get back in there until the following Monday. The plumber was still on site, still running his lines and stuff for the sinks. The week of July 26th, they started to sheetrock the framed walls, started taping the edges of the sheetrock, started doing soffits over the windows. What I mean by soffits over the windows, if you've ever been in the classrooms, they put the grid up, the ceiling grid up, and just went right across the windows. They made little soffits in there so you can't see up in there anymore, and it looks much better than it used to look, so you can't see up into the ceiling. Week of August 2nd, they started painting the walls, and then they started the ceiling grid for the drop ceilings, and then they started to put the ceiling tiles in for the ceilings, and they were touching up, after they got done painting, they touched up some of the plaster or the sheetrock that wasn't good, so they retaped it. Week of July 9th, that's today. They continued to touch up any of the walls with a compound and spackle and sand it and painting it. Tomorrow, they're going to seal the concrete floor that they used to level everything. And then Wednesday and Thursday, the floor contractor will be in to install the new floor. And Friday, the electrician comes back to install the new lights in the classrooms. The casework, I was told by Nickerson today, should be in this week, so they can install the cabinets in there next week. The Univents came in last week. They're out in the receiving building, and as soon as they're ready, they have the floor in, and we can put them, they want them, we'll take them down to them and let them install them. The only thing that's going to be a little late is the doors. We ordered them, I think, May 2nd, and the delivery date on them is going to be mid to late September. So at that point, they will come in at night and put the doors in and change them out. So that's it, pretty much.
Are
Any
these the
questions?
doors to the classroom or
Yes.
doors? Okay.
Yep, they ordered 2 of them, but there's such a delay in everything that it's a long lead item.
So you mean they keep the old doors until the new ones
Yep.
come in? Okay.
Any more questions?
So it's really starting to come along, so that will be one thing you guys will make sure, the tour of facilities in September, that you'll see the new classrooms, unless you want to see them before that, but it's coming along. So I want to thank Rich, because we don't, it's a smaller project, so we don't have a construction manager.
Rich is here, how are we on the pipes?
The pipe come out much better than we anticipated. They dug it up.
Yeah, we saw, Tammy shared.
I
with
showed
us
some
the
pictures.
Photos
Okay.
and everything, so we
Okay.
saw that.
And your
But is it
update.
all filled in and repaved?
All failed, not repaved yet. They're supposed to have JP Concrete was supposed to be here today, and I didn't see them, so they're supposed to be here this week. He told me it'd be finished up by the end of this week. So they should be in for concrete. I'm hoping tomorrow to see them, and then blacktop later on in the week.
All right.
So.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you.
Now would like to review the draft budget development calendar for the 22-23 school year.
Well, it is a month early for it than usual, but we got it together. The state gave us our timelines for all the budget notices and all the rules that we have to follow. So in the agenda is the calendar. Instead of September 20th, we will adopt this calendar, if everybody's okay with it. And then in November, everybody's going to start, the school district, the team leaders will start submitting their budgets to the principals, department chairs, and then to the principals. And then in December, the administrators will send to me and the superintendent what they're looking to purchase, what kind of supplies they need, what kind of books, equipment. Then we will look it all over. The supervisors, buildings and grounds, transportation, they will also submit their budget to me in December. At the December board meeting, I will review the whole budget process, how it all works. And then in January, we'll start the actual, we'll have the rollover budget, and then from there, we'll continue on into February and March, where we present the rest of the budget to you. And then in April starts all the voting and the budget notice and the media releases for our budget in May, for our vote in May. Any questions on the actual calendar itself? We eliminated, last year, we eliminated one of the meetings in March. We combined the capital and the administrative component with the revenue, and I did that again this year. Seemed to go well. One less meeting. Yes?
It's adoption.
Go ahead, Duncan. I'm sorry?
I move its approval.
Oh, the approval will
it's
be
just a-
next one. This
yeah,
is
it's-
just discussion.
Oh,
Okay? All right, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Now I'd like to turn it over to Tammy to talk about the board committee memberships.
Uh-huh. What did I do with that piece of paper? So most of them are already filled, but I just want to review to make sure that everyone wants to remain where they are, and we do have one opening. Of course, I swallowed that paper up. Thank you. I flipped it. Thank you very much, Tracy. So the audit committee, Daphne already took care of, so that was Duncan. Last year we had Ray and Pat. So Jim has stepped up and agreed, and Eric, so
I don't know why, but I did.
we appreciate it.
Thank you.
So this is your chance if you would like to step away from one. And so the district facility committee, while we didn't meet this year, we're definitely going to be meeting, looking at our updated capital project. That has been Eric. Would you like to remain on that one, Eric?
Yes, I would.
Okay. District level team is Tracy. Gifted and talented is Tracy. Policy is Jay, and used to be Pat, so we can look for someone there. District Safety Council used to be Pat, so that we can look for a member. That one definitely needs a member. And technology is Duncan. Okay, so would anyone, and this is for, all of the committees will be approved next month. So this is just, you can let me know if you're interested, or you can say something now. So the District Safety Committee, Janet is the Health and Safety designee and meets monthly?
Yes. And then in October, there's a tabletop.
So from 3 to 4, those meetings usually are, right?
Yes.
I've got time during the day, so for the safety, if you need somebody, I'll do it, but if somebody else wants to do it, I'll step aside.
Okay. And then policy. So Jay is representing. It can just stay Jay. So just letting you know.
Jay's got it.
Dave, you sure you
Dave,
don't know
are
anyone
you
else who might
sure?
be interested?
Good me.
All right, so we'll add Duncan to the district safety. Thank you, Duncan. Okay?
And next is a discussion about the reception for tenure appointments and new hires.
Yeah, so we were hopeful that we were going to invite everyone in September. I'm not sure whether we really can have a reception with food when we come back in September with new CDC guidelines and how we're going to be starting things. So I didn't know if this is something we wanted to pause again and keep looking at when we could do it, or if you would like to do something.
What if we use the pavilion and had it outside when it was warmer in September?
I think that's a good idea. So this is our first meeting then, or is this the second one that we have the regular board meeting? Well, we can do
In
it.
September, we have the
September.
tour of facilities, and then the,
Right.
the board meeting is the 20th.
So the tour starts, is that at 6 too, or does that start earlier?
I believe it's at 6.
6. So we have 2 board meetings, that's not a bad idea to use the pavilion. Do you want to do it the tour of the facilities night, and then we're down at the elementary school? That's the first one in September. And then we can we can have the reception from 5 to 6, and then we can start the tour.
I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a good idea too. Thanks, Daphne.
You're welcome.
All right, that's what we'll
Way
plan.
to go, Daphne. Way to go, Daphne.
Now we just have to get Tracy on board.
The other Tracy, not
Yes,
me.
the other Tracy.
The one who cooks.
The food
The
Tracy.
fabulous food, exactly. Does anyone have any input items for discussion at a future meeting? Anything they'd like to cover? I'm not sure if Duncan, that means something.
Oh.
Okay. Anything, Duncan, or no? Okay. Closing open forum. The 30-minute open forum, closing forum, is the time the board sets aside to hear in-person comments from the public. Comments may also be emailed in advance of the meeting to Daphne Pearson, District Clerk at pearsond@greenvillecsd.org. This is an opportunity for residents to voice general concerns or compliments, especially about items on the agenda. However, this is not the time to register complaints about specific individuals or about items that should be addressed confidentially through the proper channels. Is there anyone that would like to say anything? You want to use the mic?
That's something we're still looking at. We haven't made the determination yet for that.
Because if you want to keep them 3 feet apart, lockers don't work.
I totally agree. Although elementary feels like they could manage it with how they would do it. So we're looking at elementary versus middle high school. But that is one question that we have out there on the listserv.
Okay.
Same with the lockers in the PE room, athletics.
Okay. Thank you.
So, thank you.
I did receive an email. There was a person that was on YouTube and writing comments, so that's why Scott walked over. I had her email me directly, because she didn't know about the emailing before 4 o'clock, so I would like to read hers, as I said that I would. That's okay with everybody?
Yes.
So, from Jennifer Jones, I would just like to add that I agree with both parents that spoke about masks. I think parents should be able to choose whether or not their child wears a mask. Teachers are free to get vaccinated and or wear masks. Children are not super spreaders, regardless of which variant is now present, less than 1/100th of a percent. They need to have a teacher in the room for the entire day, go to the library, cafeteria, music, and art. I want to feel like I know what my child is doing. I know our district tried very hard to give everyone a productive and safe year in 2021. But I have never felt so out of touch with my child's teacher and progress. Parents and family need to be a part of their child's I love our district and appreciate everyone's effort. I do not want my child to wear a mask at all. I feel very strongly about this. Thank you, Jennifer Jones.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. So I need a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss pending litigation.
So moved?
Second? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.